What's up, weirdo? Shade Tree Surgeon here, and today we're talking Triumphs. More specifically, that immutable classic, the Triumph Bonneville. Named after the eponymous salt flats where Triumph was breaking land speed records left and right, the Bonneville was a motorcycle made for America. Americans had a fever, and the only cure was a big ol' injection of hot, nasty speed. Win on Sunday, sell on Monday was the name of the game, and Triumph was winning hard. Triumph was kicking ass and taking names in pretty much every form of racing there was, from muddy hair scrambles all the way to the Isle of Man. And thanks to Triumph's notoriety at the Salt Flats, when the Bonneville debuted in 1959, they were marketing it as the world's fastest motorcycle. Was it actually the world's fastest motorcycle? Probably not. There was a rash of boutique motorcycle manufacturers back then who were really pushing the envelopes of speed and horsepower, but honestly it doesn't really matter because the Triumph had major street cred. The Triumph Bonneville was basically the Suzuki Hayabusa of 1959. And at that claim, every mustachioed, pipe-smoking, dapper gentleman, tweed-wearing dipshit clutches their breast, aghast that I would dare mention the honorable and noble Bonneville's name in the same breath as the Suzuki Hayabusa. How dare I make that comparison? After all, the Triumph Bonneville is a noble steed, the favored choice of fine gentlemen of class and distinction, while the Suzuki Hayabusa is basically the big-ass anime titties of motorcycles. So yeah, I realize it's going to be a bit of a monocle popper for some of you guys when I compare these two bikes, but hear me out. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you already know that the Suzuki Hayabusa is not the world's fastest motorcycle, both in terms of acceleration and top speed. But if you ask Clayton, he'll tell you different. Clayton is 19 years old and he lives in Pig Knuckle, Arkansas. He works at Discount Auto Parts, is considering getting his GED, and has a bitchin' tattoo of the Grim Reaper on his left bicep. The only liquid that enters his body is Mountain Dew Code Red. He daydreams about beating up his stepdad Gary, and his nightly masturbation sessions to hentai pornography are best described as ritualistic. And Clayton will look at you dead in the eye and tell you with absolute certainty that the Suzuki Hayabusa is the baddest motorcycle on the face of the earth. Shit, man, Clayton will fucking fight you if you dare say any different. I mean, of course the Hayabusa is the baddest. They had to change laws because of that bike. It was so scary fast that everybody decided to put 186-mile-an-hour governors on their bikes. It was a mother's worst nightmare and a teenager's wet dream. A 200-mile-an-hour death rocket. And if everything I said isn't quite the truth, it doesn't really matter. What the Suzuki Hayabusa could actually do in the real world was pretty much irrelevant. Because with all the hype of speed restrictions and these 186-mile-an-hour governors and just how fast bikes were getting in the 1990s, the Hayabusa was the culmination of all this. Hell, it didn't even matter that the real top speed was only 194 miles an hour because word on the street was it went 200 miles an hour. It had exactly the right hype surrounding it to build this mythology around the bike. It was the biggest, it was the fastest, it was the baddest, it was the Hayabusa, man! The Hayabusa would kill you. People were afraid of this motorcycle, and Suzuki sold a boatload of them on the back of that reputation. And it didn't matter that it wasn't the fastest. It didn't matter that it didn't make the most horsepower. None of that mattered, because it had the hype. And that, my friends, is the exact same tactic that Triumph used to sell the original Bonneville. In 1959, this was the same engine that went 200 miles an hour on the Bonneville Salt Flats, man. It was the baddest. It was the fastest motorcycle in the world. A thing of legends. If you were a badass, you got a Triumph Bonneville. End of story. And if the reality wasn't that, if it really wasn't the world's fastest motorcycle, it was just a regular old bike that, you know, had a little bit of kick to it, it didn't matter because the mythology was already there. Triumph was for outlaws and rebels and daredevils, man. For those freaks who wanted to push the envelope of speed and power to the bleeding edge where no rational man would stride. That's how Triumph sold Bonnevilles. And it worked. People bought it hook, line, and sinker, and Bonnevilles were selling like hotcakes. They were selling so many of them that even Harley-Davidson got scared and tried to get the US government to slap an import tariff on Bonnevilles. And that only threw gasoline on the fire. Now, Triumph Bonnevilles were so badass that even Harley was shaking in their boots and trying to get lawyers to stop them from importing them to America. And thus, a legend was born. And if you asked any given teenager in the 1960s what the baddest motorcycle you could buy was, he would say without a shadow of a doubt, the Triumph Bonneville. But even so, Triumph couldn't coast on that high forever, and the last Bonneville rolled off the line in the early 1980s. Fast forward to 2001, and Triumph finally brings the Bonneville back. And these are the Bonnevilles that we're going to be talking about today. The original reimagining of the Triumph Bonneville, which ran from about 2001 to 2015, in my opinion, is just as deserving of the title classic as the original was. Not only that, but it is an absolutely amazing bike for somebody who's been riding for years or for somebody who's just getting into motorcycles. Personally, I think it's a great bike for your first motorcycle and leaves you plenty of room to grow as a rider. There's an enormous amount of aftermarket support and a huge community of dedicated enthusiasts surrounding this motorcycle. It's a bike that has timeless good looks if you leave it stock, but if you do decide to customize the thing, sky's the limit, baby. Just like its main competitor, the Harley-Davidson Sportster, the Triumph Bonneville is a blank canvas, just waiting to be turned into whatever you think a motorcycle should be. Bobber, chopper, brat, cafe, it doesn't matter, man. Whatever your preferred motorcycle is, the Bonneville provides a great platform to build it on. Or hell, just ride the damn thing around stock because it's still a great looking bike as it sits. And best of all, they are incredibly affordable. Ever since Triumph came out with the new water-cooled engine and phased out the old air-cooled 900, the prices are lower than ever. You can pick up a used one for under $5,000, and if you look hard, under $4,000 in great condition. So today we're going to look at a few of the more common variants of the new Bonneville, and I'm going to give you my opinion what I think is the best used Bonneville that you can buy. First, we're going to cover the most basic bare bones Bonnevilles, the T100 and the SE. The biggest difference between these bikes, honestly, is that you get spoked wheels on the T100 and cast alloys on the SE. The SE usually has a blacked out engine and you get more chrome on the T100, but if you look for it, they did make a T100 Black Edition for a few years. You also get a tachometer on the T100, but they both feature the exact same engine, the 865cc 360-degree parallel twin. The real deciding factor between these two is going to be the seat height, though, because the T100 is almost 2 inches taller thanks to those spoked wheels than the SE is. So if you're a little bit shorter and you don't feel like hassling with tubes in your tires, the SE is going to be a better fit for you. While the T100 sticks closer to that whole vintage look with its spoked wheels, if that's your thing. The Speedmaster and the America are the more cruiser-oriented variations of the Bonneville. I've got a lot of experience with this model since we used to own a Triumph Speedmaster. They've got a traditional rear fender setup, forward controls, and a much lower seat height than any other Bonneville. Our Speedmaster was my girlfriend's main ride for years, and she's only 5'2" and had no problem at all with the thing. The America is definitely the more traditional of the two bikes. It's got more chrome accents, larger fenders, fatter tires. Hell, you could even get a touring version for a few years, the LT, and it came with saddlebags and floorboards. The Speedmaster was basically the blacked out and bobbed version of the America. It had smaller fenders, sportier tires, sportier rims, and some years of it even featured a dual front disc instead of the single one you'd find on the America. If you're planning on longer trips or commuting on the bike, I'd lean towards the America, but if you're more concerned with flash over practicality, the Speedmaster makes an absolutely righteous just bar hopper. The Speedmaster and the America also have the same 865cc parallel twin that the regular Bonneville has, but with a 270-degree firing order instead of the 360. The 270-degree firing order provides a slight advantage towards torque, but the real benefit is a way cooler exhaust note, in my opinion anyway. The Triumph Thruxton. This is probably my least favorite Bonneville variant. Personally, I don't like cafe racers, but that's just me, and even if you do like them, I wouldn't bother with the Thruxton. It's literally just a T100 with Clubman bars, rear sets, and a seat cowl. You can make a T100 or an SE into a cafe racer for way less money than the premium that a Thruxton's gonna command. And don't fool yourself that the Thruxton's gonna be any faster. It has literally the exact same engine as the T100 and the SE. If I was looking for a used Bonneville, I'd avoid the Thruxton. But if that cafe look is what you want and you don't want to do the work yourself, then it's certainly a fine motorcycle. And finally, the Bonneville that I think is the best one that you can buy. A few of you might be surprised by this, but in my opinion, it's the Scrambler. Now, you guys who are familiar with my videos have heard me belly aching at length about how the Scrambler is nothing but a pretender. The idea that the Scrambler is any more off-road capable than a regular old Bonneville is ludicrous, and the fact that Triumph sold them that way is shameful. It's literally just a Bonneville with high pipes, man, but there is one special thing about the Scrambler. Yes, it's essentially the same bike as a Triumph T100, but it has the 270-degree engine from the Speedmaster and the America in it. And that fact, in my opinion anyway, makes it the best used Bonneville that you can buy. You get that torquier 270-degree engine with that amazing sound while still having the stock frame. The Speedmaster and the America are great bikes, but they already come with forward controls and a different rear subframe. The Scrambler makes a way better platform to build off of. And just because it says Scrambler on the side plate, that don't mean shit, man. That bike can just as easily be a cafe racer or a street tracker or even a hardtail chopper. Honestly, the biggest drawback is going to be the price on them. Scramblers always command a premium. And hell, some guys even prefer the 360-degree engine because it sounds more like a Bonneville from the 1960s. Whether or not having that 270-degree engine is worth the added price ultimately is going to be up to you. Personally, that's what I would look for, but there ain't nothing wrong with a regular old Triumph SE or T100. Like I said before, the Triumph Bonneville's main competition is the Sportster. And honestly, the 883 Sportster and the 900 Bonneville, they're pretty evenly matched. The Bonneville, it's basically the path less traveled, the choice for guys and girls who want something that's just a little bit different. Sure, Triumph has sold boatloads of the air-cooled 900cc Bonnevilles, but they aren't even a drop in the bucket compared to the absolute staggering amount of Sportsters that are out on the road. You go to any bike fest or bike event in the world, odds are you're gonna see 100 Sportsters for every one Triumph. And unfortunately, that exclusivity is also the Triumph's Achilles heel when compared to the Sportster. Because Sportsters are so much more common, not only is there way more aftermarket support for them, but it's generally much cheaper to modify them as well. A big bore kit that'll get a Sportster close or even over 100 horsepower, you can get that for around $1,000. If you want to get even close to 100 horsepower out of a Bonneville, it's going to cost you $3 to $4 grand on the low side. Carpenter Racing makes a 90 horsepower kit for the Bonneville that comes in at about $3,500. Or if you've got seriously deep pockets and you want to go whole hog on this thing, you can get a crate motor that's been bored out to 1200 cc's and makes 100 plus horsepower from Bonneville Performance. And it can be had for the low price of about $6,600. So yeah, man, if you want your Bonneville to be fast, be prepared to throw down some serious bucks. The Sportster is the clear winner as far as money is concerned, but there's just something special about the Triumph Bonneville for me. Maybe it's the heritage, maybe it's the desire to be just a little bit different. Honestly, I don't really know. Whatever those reasons may be, the Bonneville wins in my book. It's a great looking, affordable, incredibly reliable motorcycle that will serve a seasoned veteran just as well as it will a beginner. Now in this video, I've only focused on the older air-cooled Bonneville, which is no longer in production. If there's any interest, I'll do a video on the newer water-cooled 900cc and 1200cc Bonneville lineup. Just let me know if you want to see that. But until then, if you like this video, leave a like on it for me and hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel. If you know somebody who's in the market for a used Bonneville, share this video with them. It might help them out. And leave me a comment down below and let me know which Bonneville you would pick and what kind of bike you would build out of it. Until next time, y'all, keep it weird.